Marcus Chen watched the valet key scrape along the passenger door with the kind of calm that comes from understanding that some mistakes cost more than others realize. The scratch was thin, barely visible in the underground parking garage's fluorescent light. But the valet didn't know he just damaged a car worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. And he definitely didn't know the man standing 10 feet away, holding a briefcase and wearing a modest suit, was the one who owned it. This is the story of how arrogance became expensive and silence became power. The Langham Hotel's underground valet station on a Wednesday evening, 7:43 p.m. The kind of place where car keys cost more than most vehicles. Marcus had arrived 30 minutes earlier for a private dinner meeting. He'd handed his keys to the head valet, a professional named David, who had been parking cars at this hotel for 12 years. David knew every vehicle that came through. He treated each one with the respect that came from understanding that these weren't just cars. They were statements. But David had left early that evening. Family emergency. His replacement was a temp named Ryan Castellano. Ryan was 26, 3 months into valet work after his tech startup collapsed. He'd burned through investor money on an app that never launched, then pivoted to this job while planning his comeback. He saw valet work as beneath him. Temporary. A humiliating detour on his path back to wealth. He'd been scrolling through his phone when Marcus approached, barely looked up, took the keys with the kind of dismissive efficiency that suggested he was doing Marcus a favor. Marcus had noticed the attitude, but said nothing. He simply watched as Ryan walked toward the Aston Martin, still half focused on his phone screen. The scratch happened because Ryan was trying to open the door while holding 3 things: his phone, a key fob, and a paper ticket. The geometry didn't work. The key scraped along the door panel. A sound like nails on glass, but quieter, more permanent. Ryan froze, looked at the thin line he'd just created in paint that cost $8,000 to apply. His first instinct was to check if anyone had seen. He turned, scanned the garage, saw Marcus standing near the elevator, but Marcus wasn't looking in his direction. Or at least, didn't appear to be. Ryan made his calculation in 3 seconds. The scratch was barely visible. He could buff it out, maybe, or just park the car and hope no one noticed. Rich people probably didn't inspect their vehicles that closely anyway. They had people for that. He opened the door, slid into the driver's seat, and drove the Aston Martin to its assigned spot. Parked it facing the wall, the scratch on the passenger side, hidden from casual view. When he returned to the valet stand, he logged the car as received. No damage noted. No incident report filed. Marcus watched all of this from his position near the elevator. He'd seen the scratch happen. Watched Ryan's panic. Observed the decision to hide it. But Marcus Chen hadn't built a portfolio worth $3 billion by reacting impulsively. He'd done it by watching people reveal who they were through their choices, then responding with precision. Marcus took the elevator to the hotel's private dining room where his meeting waited. A tech acquisition negotiation worth $400 million. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. Marcus never mentioned the scratch. Didn't check his phone. Didn't seem distracted. His dining companion, a nervous founder selling his company, remarked on Marcus's focus. "You're the calmest person I've ever negotiated with," the man said. "Most buyers play power games." Marcus smiled slightly. "Power games are for people who aren't sure they have power." The negotiation concluded with terms favorable to Marcus. They always did. Not because he bullied or threatened, but because he made people feel like his offer was the intelligent choice, the reasonable path forward. After the founder left, Marcus sat alone for 10 minutes. Drank mineral water. Thought about the valet. The scratch itself was irrelevant. The car would be repaired. The cost was negligible. But the decision to hide it, that revealed something about character. About how someone behaves when they think no one is watching. If you're watching this, help me reach 100,000 subscribers. These stories take weeks to research and produce, and your subscription ensures we can keep telling stories about how power really operates. Marcus returned to the valet station at 9:47 p.m. The garage was quieter now. Most dinner guests had already retrieved their vehicles. Ryan was there, leaning against the desk, scrolling through Instagram. He looked up when Marcus approached. No recognition, no concern. "Ticket?" Ryan asked, hand extended. Marcus presented the valet stub. Ryan glanced at the number, then froze. His eyes flicked to Marcus's face, then back to the ticket. The Aston Martin. The scratch. For a moment, Ryan considered coming clean, apologizing, offering to cover the repair, but that would mean admitting fault, taking responsibility. And Ryan Castellano had spent the past 3 years avoiding responsibility for a failed startup by blaming investors, market conditions, and bad timing. "Be right back," Ryan said, forcing casualness into his voice. He walked to where the Aston Martin was parked. The scratch was still there, thin but visible if you knew where to look. Ryan positioned himself between the car and the elevator, blocking Marcus's view. Drove it back to the valet stand with his body angled to hide the passenger side. Marcus waited as Ryan brought the car around. When it stopped, Marcus didn't immediately get in. He walked slowly to the passenger side, examined it. Ryan felt his stomach drop. But Marcus's expression didn't change. He simply looked at the scratch for 3 seconds, then looked at Ryan. "There's damage here," Marcus said quietly. His voice was neutral, a statement of fact, not an accusation. Ryan's mind raced. Deny it? Blame someone else. He chose the path he'd always chosen. Deflection. "Oh man, I didn't notice that. When you dropped it off. Must have been there already." Ryan's tone was apologetic but firm, confident. "We see this a lot. People don't realize the damage until they're picking up. You should really inspect your vehicle more carefully before valet service." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus tilted his head slightly like someone observing an interesting specimen. "I should inspect my vehicle more carefully," Marcus repeated slowly. Not a question, not agreement, just repetition. "Yeah, no offense, but these garages are tight. Could have happened anywhere." Ryan was committed now. "I mean, I can file a report, but since it was there when you dropped it off, hotel insurance won't cover it." Marcus nodded. "I see." He reached into his jacket pocket. For a moment, Ryan thought he might pull out a phone to take photos, document evidence. Instead, Marcus withdrew a business card, plain white, embossed text. He handed it to Ryan. "If you remember anything about how this damage occurred, call this number." Ryan took the card without looking at it. "Sure, yeah, of course." Marcus got into his car, drove away without another word. The Aston Martin's engine noise faded into the city's ambient hum. Ryan looked at the card then. Simple design, no company logo, just a name, phone number, and email address. Marcus Chen, Investment Management. Ryan laughed, flicked the card toward a trash bin. Missed. Didn't bother picking it up. Some middle management investor trying to intimidate him over a scratch. Please. Ryan had dealt with real pressure, real money. This was nothing. Marcus didn't return to the hotel that night, or the next day. He simply forwarded the valet station's information to someone on his team with a single instruction. "Background check, complete profile. I want to understand who this person is." By Friday morning, Marcus had a 40-page report on Ryan Castellano. The report detailed everything. Ryan's failed startup, the $200,000 raised from angel investors, the app that never launched because Ryan spent development money on office space, designer furniture, and a company car he didn't need, the investors who'd tried to recover their money, the legal settlements, the pattern of blame shifting. There were interviews with former colleagues. A designer Ryan had hired, then refused to pay. A developer who'd quit after Ryan took credit for his work. A co-founder who'd been forced out when he questioned Ryan's spending. The pattern was clear. Ryan Castellano didn't just make mistakes, he made them, then constructed elaborate stories about why they weren't his fault. The report also included Ryan's current situation, living in a studio apartment in a marginal neighborhood, $18,000 in credit card debt, student loans in forbearance, the valet job paying barely enough to cover rent. Most people would have felt sympathy reading this, a young man struggling after failure. But Marcus saw something else, someone who'd hurt people on his way down and learned nothing from the fall. Marcus made a phone call on Friday afternoon to David, the head valet who'd been working at the Langham for 12 years. "David, this is Marcus Chen. You parked my Aston Martin 2 weeks ago." David remembered immediately. He remembered every regular guest, especially ones who drove $800,000 vehicles. "Mr. Chen, yes. How can I help you?" "I had an incident with a temporary valet on Wednesday. A scratch. I'm not filing a complaint, but I wanted to ask you something about him." Ryan Castellano. David's tone shifted. "Careful now. I can't really comment on other staff members, Mr. Chen. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to tell me if he's someone you'd trust with your own vehicle." "Off the record." A pause. Then, quietly, No, sir. I wouldn't. Has there been other damage? Not that's been reported, but between you and me, there have been complaints, attitude issues. He treats the job like it's beneath him, treats guests like they're inconveniencing him. Marcus thanked him, ended the call, made a second call to the hotel's general manager. They'd met at a charity function 2 years ago. Brief conversation. The manager probably didn't remember, but the manager's assistant did remember Marcus Chen's name when it came through. Transferred the call immediately. Mr. Chen, what a pleasure. How can we help you today? I wanted to discuss a service issue, nothing formal, just feedback. The conversation lasted 6 minutes. Marcus described the scratch, Ryan's response, the lie. He was calm, factual, didn't demand anything. I'm telling you this because your head valet, David, is exceptional. But this temporary replacement reflects poorly on your brand. I thought you'd want to know. The general manager thanked him profusely. Promised to investigate. Marcus could hear the concern in his voice. The Langhams' reputation was built on service. A complaint from someone like Marcus Chen, however politely delivered, was serious. Ryan was fired on Monday morning. Called into the manager's office before his shift started, told that his temporary position was being terminated immediately. Can I ask why? Ryan demanded. I've been professional. I've done everything. We've received a complaint about vehicle damage and dishonesty. We take these matters seriously. That's bullshit. That scratch was already there. Some rich asshole trying to scam the hotel. Mr. Castellano, we've reviewed the garage camera footage. Ryan stopped. Cameras. He'd forgotten about cameras. The footage shows the damage occurring while you were moving the vehicle. It also shows you inspecting it, then choosing not to report it. When the guest brought it to your attention, you lied. The manager slid a paper across the desk. You'll receive payment for hours worked. We won't contest unemployment, but your access is revoked effective immediately. Ryan wanted to argue, to explain, but the manager's expression made it clear the decision was final. He left the hotel through the service entrance, stood on the street in his burgundy valet jacket, which he'd forgotten to return, pulled out his phone and searched for the business card he'd thrown away. Marcus Chen, Investment Management. Ryan typed the name into Google. The results loaded. His face went pale. Marcus Chen, founder and CEO of Chen Capital Partners. Portfolio value, $3.2 billion. Specialization, technology sector acquisitions. The man whose car he'd scratched. The man he'd lied to. The man he'd called some middle management investor in his head. Ryan's hands started shaking. Losing the valet job wouldn't have been catastrophic for most people. Ryan would find another position. Keep struggling. Keep blaming circumstances. But Marcus Chen had made a different calculation. The scratch wasn't the point. The lie was the point. And lies, Marcus believed, deserved to be exposed to light. 3 days after Ryan was fired, his phone rang. Unknown number. Ryan Castellano? Yeah, who's this? My name is Jennifer Wu. I'm a reporter with TechCrunch. I'm working on a story about startup failures and investor fraud. Your name came up in connection with the Streamline app. Would you be willing to comment? Ryan's stomach dropped. How did you get this number? Public records? Mr. Castellano, several of your former investors have filed complaints with the SEC alleging misuse of funds. I wanted to give you a chance to tell your side. I don't know what you're talking about. Those investors knew the risks. They say you spent development money on personal expenses, luxury office furniture, a leased BMW. Is that accurate? Ryan ended the call. His hands were shaking again. The article published 4 days later. It wasn't front-page news, just a small piece in TechCrunch's Startup Failure series. But it named Ryan specifically, detailed the money raised, the app that never launched, the investors who'd lost everything. Comments flooded in, some sympathetic, many brutal. Someone posted Ryan's LinkedIn profile, his address, his new phone number. Subscribe now. Because what happens when someone tries to apologize to a billionaire they've wronged is something most people never consider. Ryan spent a week watching his life disintegrate online. Former colleagues shared the article. One investor posted a lengthy thread about how Ryan had promised returns, delivered nothing, then blamed market conditions. His LinkedIn profile was flooded with messages, some offering sympathy, more offering criticism, several suggesting he should be prosecuted. Ryan knew he needed to make this stop. He pulled up Marcus Chen's contact information, the business card details he'd saved after Googling the name. He drafted an email, deleted it, drafted another. Finally, at 2 a.m. on a Thursday, He sent, "Mr. Chen, I'm writing to apologize for the damage to your vehicle and my dishonesty about it. I was wrong. I should have reported it immediately and taken responsibility. I'm also aware that you may have been involved in recent media attention regarding my former company. If there's anything I can do to make this right, please let me know. I'm sorry. Ryan Castellano." The email sat unanswered for 3 days. Ryan checked his inbox every hour. Nothing. Then, on Sunday evening, a response arrived. 3 sentences. "Mr. Castellano, I appreciate your apology. The media attention you're experiencing is not my doing. People make their own consequences. M. Chen." Ryan read the email 20 times. Not my doing. Was that true? Or was Marcus Chen the kind of person who orchestrated things so carefully that his fingerprints never showed? The truth, which Ryan would never know, was more nuanced. Marcus hadn't called TechCrunch, but he had mentioned Ryan's name to a venture capital friend during a casual lunch, mentioned the failed startup, the pattern of investor fraud, how sometimes people who hurt others in business face no consequences unless someone shines a light. The VC had a friend at TechCrunch. The friend had been working on startup failure stories. One conversation led to another. No instructions given. No favors called in. Just information flowing through networks the way it always does when someone with influence mentions something worth investigating. Marcus Chen didn't orchestrate revenge. He simply created conditions where truth became visible. This is how real power operates. Not through dramatic confrontations or public destruction, but through quiet conversations that ripple outward in ways that can't be traced back to their source. 6 weeks after the scratch, Marcus's assistant received a call. Ryan Castellano requesting a meeting. Willing to come anywhere, anytime, just 15 minutes. The assistant asked what this was regarding. Ryan said, "Accountability." Marcus agreed to meet. Not in his office, not at a restaurant, in a park, public, neutral. They met on a Wednesday afternoon. Battery Park. Marcus sat on a bench facing the harbor. Ryan approached wearing the same suit he'd worn to his last investor pitch 3 years ago. It didn't fit quite right anymore. Weight loss from stress. Marcus gestured to the space beside him. Ryan sat. For a minute, neither spoke. Just watched the water. "I wanted to apologize in person," Ryan said finally. "For the car. For lying. For being the kind of person who damages something and pretends it didn't happen." Marcus nodded, said nothing. "I've spent the past 6 weeks thinking about why I did that, and I realized it's because I've spent 3 years doing the same thing, damaging things and pretending I didn't. My company, my investors' trust, my relationships." "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus asked, not unkindly, genuinely curious. "Because you're the first person who made me face consequences I couldn't talk my way out of, and I think you did it on purpose. Not the media stuff. I believe you when you say that wasn't you directly, but the firing. You called the hotel." Marcus didn't confirm or deny. "I deserved it," Ryan continued. "I deserved all of it, and I'm not here to ask you to make it stop or to help me. I'm just here to say I understand now what you were doing." "And what was I doing?" Ryan thought about this. "Teaching me that actions have consequences, that you can't lie your way out of everything, that sometimes the person you wrong has enough power to make sure the truth comes out." Marcus watched a ferry cross the harbor. "Do you know why I didn't file a lawsuit? Why I didn't pursue criminal charges for filing a false report?" Ryan shook his head. "Because I didn't need to. You were already carrying the weight of your choices. Adding legal pressure would have just given you something external to focus on, someone else to blame." Marcus turned to look at Ryan directly. "The scratch cost $8,000 to repair. I spent less time thinking about it than you've spent agonizing over what I might do next. That's the difference between us. You treat small things as existential threats because you have no foundation. I treat them as information." "Information about what?" "About who people are when they think no one important is watching." Ryan felt the truth of this settle over him like weight. "So this was all a test?" "No." Marcus stood. "It was a mirror. I just made sure you couldn't look away from what it showed you." He began to walk away, then paused. "Ryan, the reason you failed wasn't lack of talent or bad timing. It was character. You surrounded yourself with people you could manipulate instead of people who would challenge you. You spent money. You didn't have to project success instead of building something real. And when it collapsed, you blamed everyone except the person making the decisions. I know that now. Knowing isn't enough. Changing is what matters." Marcus pulled out his phone, typed something. Ryan's phone buzzed. An email. That's a contact at a startup accelerator. They're looking for someone to mentor young founders on what not to do. The pay is minimal. The work is humbling. You'll have to talk about your failures in detail, repeatedly, to people who will judge you for them. Ryan stared at the email. Why would you help me? I'm not helping you. I'm giving you an opportunity to help others by being honest about your mistakes. Whether you take it is up to you. Marcus walked away then. Didn't look back. Ryan sat on the bench for another hour, watching the water, thinking about the past 3 years, about the investors he'd disappointed, the people he'd blamed, the pattern he'd been repeating. He opened the email, read the contact information. And for the first time in 3 years, Ryan Castellano considered the possibility that maybe the problem had always been him. The accelerator brought Ryan in to speak to a cohort of 12 first-time founders. Young, ambitious, making the same mistakes he'd made. He didn't sugarcoat anything. Told them about raising money he wasn't prepared to manage responsibly, about hiring people to validate his ego instead of challenge his ideas, about the moment he realized the app would never launch and chose to keep spending investor money anyway. I told myself I was being optimistic, Ryan said to the room. That belief and persistence would make it work. But there's a difference between optimism and delusion. Optimism adjusts to reality. Delusion ignores it. One founder asked the question Ryan had been waiting for. How did you finally accept that it was over? Ryan thought about the underground garage, the scratch, the lie. Someone I wronged gave me exactly what I deserved, not out of cruelty, out of precision. And it forced me to see that the pattern of avoiding responsibility wasn't just hurting my business. It was defining who I was becoming as a person. After the talk, the accelerator's director pulled Ryan aside. That was powerful, honest. We'd like you to do this regularly. We can offer a stipend. Not much, but I'll do it, Ryan said. The money doesn't matter. Marcus never attended any of Ryan's talks, never followed up, never checked on whether the opportunity led anywhere. He'd moved on to other acquisitions, other negotiations, other moments where he assessed people's character through their choices. But his assistant kept a file, updates on Ryan Castellano, the talks, the accelerator position, the small consulting practice Ryan eventually started, helping founders avoid the mistakes he'd made. One evening, reviewing quarterly reports, Marcus's assistant mentioned it. That valet who scratched your car, he's doing well apparently, speaking circuit, rebuilt some credibility. Marcus nodded, barely looking up from the financial projections he was reviewing. Good. Should I keep monitoring? No, he's not our concern anymore. The assistant made a note, closed the file. Marcus returned to his work. The Aston Martin had been repaired weeks ago, the scratch buffed out, paint reapplied, invisible. Some people would say Marcus had been generous, offering Ryan a second chance. Others would say he'd been calculating, turning a minor inconvenience into a teaching moment. But Marcus Chen didn't think in terms of generosity or calculation. He thought in terms of efficiency. What's the most effective way to ensure behavior changes? For some people, that meant lawsuits and public destruction. For others, it meant a carefully placed mirror and an opportunity to prove they could learn. The art was knowing which person required which approach. 2 years after the scratch, Marcus returned to the Langham Hotel for another dinner meeting. Same private dining room, different negotiation. When he arrived, David was working the valet stand. He recognized Marcus immediately. Mr. Chen, good to see you again. David, how have you been? Very well, sir. I'll take excellent care of your vehicle. Marcus handed over the keys. Different car now. A Porsche Taycan. The Aston Martin sat in his collection garage, driven only occasionally. David walked toward the car with professional care. Marcus called after him. David, do you remember that temporary valet, Ryan Castellano? David turned, surprised by the question. I do, yes. He was let go. Dishonesty issue, if I recall. Did you ever hear what happened to him after? David thought about this. Actually, yes. A former colleague mentioned seeing him speak at some entrepreneurship event, about learning from failure. Apparently he's doing well. Marcus nodded. Good to hear. He took the elevator to his meeting. The negotiation lasted 2 hours. Another successful acquisition. Terms favorable to Marcus as always. When he returned to collect his car, a different valet brought it around. Young, professional, careful. Marcus inspected the vehicle with the same thoroughness he'd shown 2 years ago. No damage, no scratches, perfect. He tipped well, drove away into the New York night. If you've watched this far, you understand that this isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about accountability. Marcus Chen didn't destroy Ryan Castellano. He didn't need to. Ryan was already destroying himself through patterns of dishonesty and blame shifting. What Marcus did was remove the protective layers that allowed those patterns to continue. He made Ryan's choices visible, first to the hotel, then indirectly to the media, then, through careful opportunity, to Ryan himself. The scratch was never the point. The car was repaired in a week. The cost was negligible. The point was the lie, and the decision to help someone who'd wronged him, not out of generosity, but out of efficiency. Because people like Ryan Castellano exist everywhere. In business, in service industries, in positions of trust. They make mistakes, then compound them with dishonesty. And usually they get away with it because the people they wrong don't have the resources or will to hold them accountable. But occasionally they wrong someone who understands that real power isn't about immediate punishment. It's about creating conditions where truth becomes inescapable and growth becomes the only path forward. 3 lessons live in this story. First, people reveal their character through small choices under pressure. How someone handles a minor mistake when they think no one important is watching tells you everything about how they'll handle major failures when everyone is. Second, consequences don't always look like punishment. Sometimes the most effective consequence is making someone face truth they've been avoiding. No lawsuit, no public shaming, just a mirror they can't turn away from. Third, power used wisely doesn't destroy. It redirects. Marcus Chen could have buried Ryan Castellano with legal action, public exposure, financial ruin. Instead, he created conditions for growth and offered one opportunity to prove change was possible. That's the difference between revenge and accountability. Revenge wants suffering. Accountability wants truth and correction. The question this story asks isn't, what would you do if someone wronged you and you had the power to destroy them? The question is, if you had that power, would you be wise enough to use it precisely instead of absolutely? 5 years after the scratch, Marcus received an invitation to speak at a technology conference about investment strategy, due diligence, character assessment in founders. He accepted, though he rarely did public speaking. The topic interested him. The conference was well organized, professional. When Marcus arrived, the event coordinator met him personally. "Mr. Chen, we're honored to have you. Your session is in the main hall at 2 p.m. If you need anything..." "Actually," Marcus interrupted, "who else is speaking today?" The coordinator pulled up a schedule, listed names. When he reached the third name, Marcus stopped him. "Ryan Castellano. Learning from failure, a founder's journey. What's his story?" "Oh, he's fantastic. Former failed founder who rebuilt his reputation through brutal honesty. Helps other entrepreneurs avoid his mistakes. Very popular on the circuit." Marcus nodded. "I'd like to attend his session." The coordinator looked surprised, but pleased. "Of course. It's at 11 a.m. in Conference Room B." Marcus entered the back of Conference Room B at 10:58 a.m. The room held maybe 60 people. Startup founders, investors, students. Ryan took the stage at 11 exactly. He'd changed. Not just physically, though he looked healthier. More put together. But in his presence. Less performance. More substance. "I'm going to tell you about the worst mistake I ever made," Ryan began. "Not the failed company, not the money I lost, the moment I scratched a very expensive car and decided to lie about it." Marcus settled into his seat in the back row. Listened. Ryan told the story with uncomfortable honesty. The scratch, the panic, the lie, the firing. He didn't name Marcus, just called him someone I'd underestimated. "I thought I'd gotten away with it," Ryan said. 30 seconds of dishonesty. Who would know? Who would care? But that person cared. Not because of the money, because of what the lie revealed about my character. He described the aftermath, the media attention, the forced self-examination, the opportunity he'd been given. That person could have destroyed me legally, financially, publicly. They had the resources. Instead, they gave me exactly what I needed, which was consequences I couldn't avoid and an opportunity I didn't deserve but could earn. Ryan paused, looked at the audience. 5 years later, I help founders avoid the mistakes I made. I'm honest about my failures. I've rebuilt some credibility, and I think about that moment every single day because it taught me that how you handle mistakes when you think no one important is watching is who you actually are. The session lasted 45 minutes. Questions afterward. Smart questions about accountability, growth, character. Marcus left before the Q&A ended. He had his own session to prepare for. Marcus's session at 2 p.m. covered investment philosophy, character assessment, how to evaluate founders beyond their pitch decks and financial projections. Someone in the audience asked, "How do you assess character in a first meeting?" Marcus considered this. "I don't. Character reveals itself over time, through small choices under pressure. Anyone can perform well in a formal pitch. What matters is how they handle mistakes, setbacks, and moments when they think no one important is watching." After the session, people approached with questions, business cards, requests for meetings. Marcus was polite but efficient. He had a flight to catch. As he left the conference center, Ryan was in the lobby, talking with a group of young founders, animated, engaged, helping. Their eyes met across the space. Ryan's expression shifted. Recognition, surprise, something like gratitude. Marcus nodded once, simple acknowledgement. Ryan returned the nod. No words exchanged, none needed. Marcus walked out into the afternoon sunlight. His car was waiting. A different driver this time, professional, careful. The vehicle pulled away. Marcus opened his laptop, returned to work. The Castellano file had been closed years ago, archived, no longer relevant. Some stories end with dramatic confrontation, with apologies or forgiveness, with closure wrapped in conversation. This one ended with a nod across a lobby. Two men who'd changed each other's trajectories through one small moment of damage and dishonesty, who'd moved on to become different versions of themselves. And sometimes, Marcus thought as the city passed by his window, that's enough. Power, when wielded with precision, doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It simply creates conditions where truth has no choice but to emerge. Marcus Chen understood this in a way most people never will, not because he was cruel or calculated, but because he'd learned that the most effective form of accountability isn't punishment. It's making avoidance impossible. A scratch on a car door, $8,000 in damage, a lie that lasted 30 seconds. And from that tiny moment, a complete recalibration of someone's life trajectory. Not through destruction, but through carefully applied pressure at exactly the point where change became the only option. Ryan Castellano would tell you today that losing that valet job was the best thing that ever happened to him. That being forced to confront his pattern of dishonesty saved him from a life of diminishing returns and increasing self-deception. Marcus Chen would tell you he was just being efficient, that allowing someone to continue damaging others wastes everyone's time. That intervention, when precisely applied, benefits both the person corrected and everyone they'll interact with afterward. Both would be right. This is how power operates in the real world. Not through dramatic displays or public vengeance, but through quiet decisions that ripple outward in ways that can't be traced back to their source. Through conversations that lead to other conversations. Through opportunities offered to people who don't deserve them, but might earn them. The scratch was repaired within a week. The car looks perfect. You'd never know anything happened. But the person who caused that damage, he's permanently marked by it. Changed. Better. And that, more than any lawsuit or public shaming, is what real accountability looks like. If this story made you think differently about power, responsibility, and second chances, subscribe to this channel. We spend weeks researching these stories, finding the psychological truth in moments where power and character collide. The next story is already being written, and it will challenge everything you think you know about justice.